Hey friends! Tonight's story takes us back to a mist-heavy morning in the English countryside sometime in the year 1546, when the floors were stone, the windows were horn, and the warmth came mostly from whatever fire hadn't gone out yet. Down a narrow corridor of a manor house, the kitchen is already breathing barely. A low fire glows in the hearth. Somewhere a bucket drips, and a young maid, already on her feet before the sun, is folding yesterday's cloth like it still matters. This isn't a story that moves, it's one that settles. No drama, no great mystery, just the creak of beams, the clink of pewter, and the slow, familiar rhythm of a life lived quietly. So, if you're ready to let go for the night, dim the lights, pull the covers up, maybe let your eyes rest somewhere soft, and if these kinds of slow, ordinary stories help you sleep, or just help you breathe, you're welcome to subscribe, only if it feels right. All right, take a breath. You're about to step into a day that doesn't need your name, only your stillness. You're not a guest. You're not even noticed. The kitchen doesn't stop moving just because you've entered. It doesn't acknowledge your sore feet or your damp hem or the single thread dangling from your sleeve that's been driving you mad since the hearth shift began. The scullery is all stone and steam, and none of it belongs to you. A long, uneven flagstone floor runs from the doorway to the far hearth like a cold stream, catching ash in its grooves and holding tight to yesterday's drips of broth and tallow. Tallow light flickers against the copper pans overhead. One's got a streak of lard down the side like a thumbprint that never washed out. A mouse disappears behind a barrel in the far corner. You don't mention it. The cook doesn't care, and anyway, it's probably warmer in there than it is beside the washing trough where your hands are. You scrub harder. There's no soap left, only the grey slurry of last night's rinse water and the sting of your own cracked skin. Someone clears their throat behind you, but it's not a word. Just a reminder to keep moving. No one talks to you. The cook grunts. The others don't look up. It smells like onions, wet wool and ash. A dense mix that sticks to your apron and stays with you long after the fire dies down. Somewhere outside, past the warped door that never quite shuts, the fog curls like smoke along the stone path. It's raining, but it always is. You think it might have rained in your dreams too, if you'd had time for them. Your shift began before sunrise, but no one said good morning. You won't hear that phrase today. The floor soaks through your shoes by the hour. They were someone else's once. Too big at the heel and cracked at the toe. They curl like pastry in the damp. The flagstones press up cold through the soles as if they want to remind you they've outlived everyone who's ever walked here. You imagine the stones as stubborn old things that resent your weight. The fire hasn't been banked yet. No one's bothered with it. There's a pot hanging from a crooked arm of iron, but it holds only the ghosts of last night's supper, a few pale leaks, and a slick of grease hugging the bottom. The tallow candles spit softly in their iron holders. One tilts forward like it's trying to escape. The ceiling is low and timbered, not straight in any direction, and the air beneath it doesn't move unless someone does. The hearth is the only warm place, but you're not near it. The girl who peels vegetables has claimed the closest stool, chin tucked to her chest, knife moving like her fingers were born holding it. You tried sitting once 2 days ago. The cook looked up and said nothing, just dragged her spoon louder through the mash until the point landed. You haven't sat since. Outside, the chickens mutter somewhere past the fogged window slats. They're the only ones allowed to complain. You're not sure what time it is, except that it isn't breakfast for you. It won't be. There's a bowl on the corner shelf with a bit of crust in it. Someone left it from yesterday, maybe as a joke. You think about eating it anyway. The smoke from the hearth clings to your hair. You won't notice it until you're in bed tonight, when the blanket lifts and it follows you in like a second skin. The scullery doesn't mark time the way the upstairs does. No bells, no chiming clocks. Just the sound of the fire deciding when it feels like catching, and the clatter of feet whenever a new pot needs scrubbing. You watch your fingers wrinkle again and again. They haven't been dry since yesterday's laundry. The smell of lye still stings your sleeves. You hold your breath when you lean in too close to the wash basin. Not because of the smell, you've stopped noticing that, but because the steam makes your nose run and there's no clean rag in reach. The window above the sink isn't really a window, just a crooked frame where someone's hammered in oiled parchment years ago. Rain presses against it in soft rhythms, like it's being polite about wanting to come in. Your apron's already damp from leaning against the trough, but you don't step back. Your arms ache. The brush is missing half its bristles, and it chews at your knuckles as much as the pan. You know better than to ask for another. The air moves differently now. Someone's opened the back door again. Fog curls over the flagstones like it's inspecting your work. It carries the faint scent of manure from the nearby pig yard, but also something sharper, maybe rosemary, or just the memory of it from last week's roast. The smell never quite leaves the stones. Someone asks where the knives have gone. You don't answer. You don't know. No one expects you to. Your job is to keep moving, quietly, like smoke. Like someone who was never meant to be here, but somehow still is. You wipe your hands on your apron and reach for the next pot. The boots arrive in a pile like they've been dropped from a cart, which in fairness they probably were. The outer pairs are just wet. The innermost ones, though, hold on to their secrets. You don't want to know who wore them. You don't want to know where they stepped. But you'll know anyway soon enough. You carry the whole lot to the trough where the water is already grey with someone else's effort. The rag you're given has holes. You fold it in half and pretend not to notice. You start with the biggest pair. The leather is stiff and cracked. Mud clings to the soles like it's making a home there. You scrub it loose with the edge of your thumbnail because the brush is missing and no one's getting another. Cold fingers find the metal clasp and your breath catches when it gives way. The heel's packed with straw. You don't ask why. It's silent work. No one jokes, no one tells stories. The only sound is the wet drag of cloth over leather, the occasional grunt from someone lifting a bucket, and the slow drip of water off the table edge. You line the clean boots along the hearth's edge to dry. They won't dry fully, but they'll seem like they did, and that's good enough. Someone coughs behind you. They've been doing that all week, and you've stopped reacting to it. The cook says it's the soot, or the damp, or the lad's own bad lungs, and anyway, it's not your business. You keep scrubbing. The fog outside thickens until the window goes blank. There's a quiet comfort in it. If you can't see out, maybe no one can see in. The ashes come next. You think there can't be many left in the hearth, but you're always wrong about that. The iron shovel scrapes loudly against brick. You breathe through your sleeve like they told you to, but it doesn't help much. The dust climbs into your nose anyway, dry and fine like flour with no purpose. It settles in your lashes, sticks to your sweat. You tip the ashes into the bucket slowly to avoid the cloud, but the bucket is light, and the iron makes more noise than you meant it to. Charcoal chunks fall like teeth. Some still hold heat. You learn quickly which ones to avoid. Your fingers are burned already from 3 days ago. The blister peeled last night, in bed, when your sleeve brushed it wrong. You didn't tell anyone. No one asked. The hearth has a rhythm of its own. You sweep around the logs that are still smouldering. The fire isn't dead yet, just sulking. There's a rhythm to the scrape and tap that almost feels like something you could hum to. But no one hums here. The girl with the knife doesn't stop, doesn't look. You wonder if she's still on the same onion or if she's moved on to turnips. You don't ask. The cook's voice cuts through the haze. She wants the fire hotter. You nod, though she's not looking at you. You add kindling from the pile near the door, careful not to drag in more mud. One of the logs is damp and hisses like it disapproves. You stack it anyway. The fire coughs and the smoke follows. It trails along the low ceiling, curling into the corners where no broom reaches. You wonder if anyone's ever cleaned up there. You doubt it. The ceiling remembers too much. The porridge is already on. It started bubbling while you were still scrubbing boots. The pot is heavy, iron, with a bottom that burns anything it touches if you don't keep stirring. You grip the wooden ladle like it's part of your arm. It's too long and too rough. There's a splinter you can't see but feel every time you shift your grip. You stir anyway. It's better than having the cook notice it's caught again. The porridge is more water than oats. No milk today or yesterday. Maybe tomorrow. If the cow stops limping, you don't ask. The rhythm of stirring is slow and thick and thankless. Every few turns you scrape the ladle hard against the bottom to stop the scorched part from spreading. The sound is like someone clearing their throat for too long. It smells faintly of smoke and salt. Someone's added too much of the latter. Maybe the lad with the cough, maybe the one who sharpens and knows. It doesn't matter. No one will say anything unless the master complains, and the master won't eat this batch. This is for you, for the cook, for anyone not important enough to eat upstairs, which is everyone you see most days. The pot rocks slightly when you step back to stretch your arm. The fire licks at the bottom like it's trying to help, but it never does. You glance over your shoulder out of habit. No one's watching. You roll your wrist once, twice, then grip the ladle again. It's always like this, a repetitive, necessary, quiet. The kind of work that disappears as soon as it's done. No one notices unless you stop, and you never stop. The bucket's handle cuts into your palm by the time you reach the second stair. The stone steps are slick with moss in places, though no one calls it moss. Just green and slippery and a reason to fall if you forget where the dip is. You don't forget. You've done this too many times already. The bucket sloshes with each uneven step. Cold water laps against the rim and onto your wrist. It seeps past the edge of your sleeve and into the crook of your elbow where the fabric sticks and cools you in an unpleasant way. You keep climbing. No one waits at the top. You pass no one. You're just the bucket girl for now. At the landing, you set the pail down too hard. The splash hits your apron, adding to the stains you no longer try to hide. You wipe your palms on the dry edge and lift it again. This time it's down the corridor, past the kitchen's second door and into the back prep room where the floorboards shift underfoot. The boards creak even when you hold your breath. The pail bumps against your knee. You set it beside the barrel where the washcloths soak. Another girl's already left 2 more buckets there. She didn't carry them upstairs, though. That's for you. You bend, hook your fingers around the rough iron handle, and lift again. You don't think about how many steps there are. You just take them. Your shoulders burn by the 3rd flight. Your arms ache by the 4th. It's not a heavy bucket. Not really. Just enough weight to make you think about how often you've carried it. The coal scuttle sits where it always does, half buried in shadows beside the old door that doesn't close. It's heavy even before you add anything to it. The coal's in a heap at the edge of the woodpile, black and sharp and smelling faintly of earth and something older. You try not to breathe it in too deeply. The dust sticks to your throat like powdered bone. Your fingers search for pieces that won't cut. There aren't any. Every edge bites a little. You grip from underneath, letting your apron take the worst of it, and tip the pieces into the scuttle. The sound is deep and final, like throwing stones into a well. You lose count around 15. You don't try again. The scuttle tips to the side when you lift it. The handle groans but doesn't break. It never does, just threatens to. You walk slow, knees bent a little for balance, the tin container knocking against your shin every few steps. It bruises the same place every time. The kitchen is warmer when you return. Not welcoming, just warmer. The cook doesn't look up. Someone mutters about the bread starter. Too dry again. You set the scuttle near the hearth, careful not to catch your skirt hem. You dump the coal in a practiced arc that sends a fine grey plume into the air. You back away quickly, coughing once into your sleeve. The cook says nothing. You straighten up, shoulders stiff, and step aside for the next task that's already waiting. The root vegetables come in crates. You don't know where from, just they arrive before sunrise, and they're never washed. Each turnip brings a new clump of frozen soil, each carrot a surprise stone. The knife they gave you is dull at the tip and slightly curved at the handle like someone's used it too long, and it's decided to bend. You sit on the low bench in the far corner of the prep room, knees together, basket at your feet, and begin peeling. The earth under your fingernails from earlier meets the new layer now grinding in. You gave up keeping your hands clean last week. The vegetables don't speak, but they have opinions. The parsnips snap too easily. The beets stain everything they touch. The onions, when they finally show up, make your eyes run enough that someone always mutters something about grief, and then falls silent. No one has time for grief here. The dull knife makes your thumb cramp. You switch hands halfway through the pile, then switch back again when the peel slips wrong. A carrot rolls off the bench and under a table, and you think about leaving it there, but you don't. You reach for it, your back cracking softly in protest. There's something soothing in the repetition. Scrape, flick, toss, scrape, flick, toss. The smell of soil and starch and old wood curls around you like a coat. The hearth is far, but the warmth reaches this corner just enough to make your knees feel it. You don't talk while you peel. No one does. It's not a rule, it's just how it is. You don't get told when it's time for the chamber pots. You just feel it in the hush, that small pause in the noise of clanging pots and muttered instructions. The others go quiet because no one wants the task, and the quiet is its own kind of assignment, so you go. There's a shelf near the servants' quarters where the pots wait. Some are chipped. One has a handle held on with wire. All of them are full enough to slosh if you aren't careful. You wrap a cloth around each pot as you carry them, not for modesty, just for grip. The glaze is cold and clammy in your fingers. You breathe through your mouth. The corridor to the yard seems longer when you're holding something that wants to spill. Outside, the cold is clean, almost forgiving. The yard is mud mostly, with a corner paved in broken brick that no one uses. You tip the contents into the ditch behind the pigsty and rinse the pots in the barrel beside it, where the water is low and filmy with leaves. Your fingers go numb in seconds. You scrub fast, then not at all, just enough to call it done. On the walk back, you pass the gardener. He doesn't look up. You're not supposed to say anything anyway. You nod without knowing why. The pots clink in your arms. You slide them back into place on the shelf and no one acknowledges it. Someone will use them later, and no one will remember you cleaned them. That's how it works. The knife sounds different when it meets the whetstone just right. It hums in a way that feels heavier than it should, like it's cutting through more than just silence. You sit near the back door, knees apart, stone balanced on your lap. Your fingers are raw, but they know the angle. You've watched the older boy do it often enough. He's not here now. He's off carrying flour or stealing heel crusts, depending who you ask. The knife in your hand isn't sharp yet. It's never sharp at the start. You dip it in the bowl beside you. A little water, a lot of backwash voltage from the last blade. You grind the edge against the stone in long strokes, each one deliberate. There's rhythm again, in this too. A pattern of repetition no one taught you, but that your muscles remember better than your mind does. The handle's worn smooth in places, rough in others. You rotate it mid-stroke to keep the pressure even. A spark jumps once when you hit the angle just right. It startles you, even though it happens every time. The cold comes through the doorway behind you. The door doesn't shut fully unless someone kicks it. You don't bother. Your skirt presses against the cold floor and soaks at the hem. It'll dry eventually. Everything does. You finish the blade and lay it across a folded cloth, then the next, then the one after that. No one will thank you, but they'll notice if you get it wrong. The laundry waits for no one. It's been soaking since yesterday in the copper tub near the hearth, stiff with lye and starch and the kind of grey warmth that looks like it should be clean but isn't. The smell rises before you get close. Not bad, just strong. Soap root, damp linen, the bite of boiled cloth. You roll your sleeves and reach in. The water is still hot near the top, though not fresh hot. Your fingers sting. The linen slips under your grip until you grip harder, knuckles whitening. You twist the cloth until your arms shake, then once more, then hang it over the rope strung across the rafters, where it drips steadily into a tin pan on the floor. You wring faster as the stack beside you shrinks. Shirts, chemises, a single petticoat with lace near the hem that someone better paid will wear again tomorrow. You smooth the edge of that one before hanging it, though no one asked you to. The steam gathers overhead. It curls in the corners and beads against the beam above your head. You wipe your forehead with the back of your wrist and start again. No one speaks here. The other girls are folding dry linen or feeding wood to the fire. You're the one with the wringer's hands today. The lye burns where your skin is cracked. You ignore it. Tomorrow someone else will be on laundry. Or maybe not. Maybe the bucket girl will do both. You, in other words. The firewood pile sits just outside the rear kitchen door. It was stacked once, months ago, but the rain and the wind have slumped it into a heap of damp bark and splinters. You can smell it before you touch it. The soft rot of wet timber, the sour trace of mushrooms, and something like wet wool but earthier. Your hands are already scratched before you lift the first piece. The logs are heavier than they look, not because of size, but because of the weight of wetness and wetness. Water clings to every crack and seam. You wedge your fingers underneath the best of the lot, by which you mean not yet mouldy, and haul them to your chest, one by one. Your apron pocket catches a twig. It stays there for the rest of the day. The mud is worse on the second trip. You don't bother avoiding the puddles now. Your shoes have given up trying to keep water out. They squelch in rhythm with your breath. When you reach the doorway, your foot slips on the edge stone and your knee hits the frame. No one sees. No one hears. You press your hand to the bruise through the fabric, just for a second. Inside, the warmth hits you in a wave. Not comfort, just heat thick with ash and boiled vegetables. The fire's low. You add the logs in the order the cook likes, thin ones to catch, thick ones last. The wood hisses in protest. Steam rises off the bark as it dries in place. It smells better burning than it did stacked. The cook nods once. That's all. You go back out for the next armful. The chopping block is outside too, but that task doesn't fall to you. Not officially. Still, the boy who's supposed to do it isn't here. No one knows where he's gone, and no one waits long. So you take up the hatchet, which is heavier than it looks, and squat beside the stump like you've done it before. You have, once, twice. That's enough. The wood splits reluctantly. Each swing jars your elbow. You line up smaller branches against the grain and bring the blade down fast before your arm second guesses. The first few attempts leave more dent than split. The fifth goes through. A splinter bounces off your cheek. You blink and keep going. By the time you have a proper pile, your wrists ache and the fog has crept inside your collar. You gather the kindling into your apron and carry it folded against your belly like a bundle of kindling-coloured bread. Inside, the hearth is louder now. Someone stirring stew, someone else poking coals. You add your bundle to the stack near the wall, out of the way but close enough to dry. No one says anything. The boy eventually returns, eyes bleary, boots damp with something that isn't rain. The cook doesn't scold, just points him toward the basin. She saw you do his job. She doesn't say so. You wipe your cheek with your wrist where the splinter hit and move on. Your back is sore. You're not sure when that started. Maybe yesterday. Maybe always. The floorboards in the back hallway creak no matter how carefully you step. You learn to walk between the warped places, heel to toe, skirt bunched in one hand to avoid dragging. This is where the mistress walks, where her skirts trail just so, and the polish shines more for her than anyone else. But someone must clear the soot from the edge of the baseboards. Someone must kneel with rag and oil and rub until her reflection nearly looks back. That someone, this hour, is you. The rag catches on a splinter near the doorframe. You press it flat and keep going. The oil stings your nose, sharp and earthy. It makes your eyes water more than the onions did. You blink through it and rub faster. The burn will fade. The finish will stay, at least until tomorrow's soot settles again. Your knees go numb from the cold boards. You shift to one side, then the other, trying to keep circulation without pausing. Behind you, a door clicks shut, the master's valet maybe, or the steward. Neither stops, neither offers a glance. You blend into the trim when you kneel like this. Not a person, a fixture. That's what the cook says when she's half joking. You're furniture when you're still. Don't go getting comfortable. You don't. The rag comes away black, then grey, then nearly clean. You fold it and tuck it under your apron. You rise slowly, hands on thighs, and roll your shoulders back until they crack. A quiet sound, a private one. No one says anything when joints pop, but you notice. The copper pots are stacked high near the hearth, their bellies blackened from smoke and time. Some have dents. One has a handle that swings on a loose rivet, squeaking like a bird when it moves. You take that one first. The scouring brush is little more than bundled wire now, but it still bites enough to make you wince. Soaproot lather doesn't come easy. You work it into the pot's rim with a scrap of cloth, then dip the whole thing into the basin. The water has cooled since morning. Your hands go under anyway. The cold is a kind of focus. You scrub until your shoulder clicks. Then you rotate the pot and start again. It's not about making it shine. It never really shines. But it should look as though it might, if the light caught it just right. That's enough for the cook, who eyes every piece before setting it back on the shelf. She won't say anything if it's done well. She'll only speak if it isn't. As the blackened layers lift, a dull bronze begins to show. Not pretty, but honest. You rinse it twice, then lean over to shake the cloth clean. The floor's already soaked, but it doesn't matter. You place the pot upside down on the drying rack and reach for the next. The cellar is colder than the kitchen. Not by much, but enough that your breath briefly shows when you first open the door. The candle you carry flickers in protest, stubby and drippy its with wax. You hold it low, trying to see the steps. They're carved straight from the earth, uneven, and dusted with white powder from spilled flour, or lime, or both. The air smells damp, like something left too long in a lidded pot. The stone walls sweat even when it hasn't rained. You duck low under the arch and keep walking, the candle's flames stuttering in the draught. On the far side, the shelves loom tall and crooked. Baskets of onions, sacks of barley. Bottles so dusty the labels have turned to ghosts. You're looking for something simple, salt or maybe dried rosemary. You don't remember now. Someone barked the order half an hour ago, and you were busy hauling coal. It hardly matters. You'll bring back something useful. Your hand grazes a hanging bundle of herbs. The scent is sharp and almost clean. You take that and a half-used sack of flour, hefting it against your hip with a grunt. The sack leaks at one corner, a soft stream dusting your dress as you climb. Halfway up, your foot slips. You catch yourself on the wall, leaving a white handprint behind. The candle nearly goes out. You breathe slow and steady, then finish the climb. At the top, the cook frowns at the flour mess but doesn't speak. You pass her the bundle of herbs, and she sniffs once. That's answer enough. The flour dust follows you back into the kitchen, clinging to your apron and lashes. No one mentions it. You set the sack down near the table where the mixing bowl sits stacked like open mouths. One has dough rising in it, slow and stubborn. You press a finger into its surface, not out of mischief, just to see. It sticks a little, then gives way. You wipe your hands on the edge of your skirt and turn to fetch more wood. But the cook stops you with a nod toward the oven. She wants you to start the bread. You nod and roll your sleeves. The flour is coarse. It falls in lumps rather than a smooth stream. You scoop a handful and spread it across the table, then more across your palms. The dough fights you. It always does. It clings to your knuckles and pulls at your wrists. You knead by leaning in, using your whole body, rocking forward like you're pressing out a secret. The table creaks beneath the rhythm. It's quiet for a time, just the sound of dough slapping wood, of breath through nostrils, of the fire popping somewhere off to the left. Someone walks past and steps over a broom without noticing it. You keep kneading. The dough smooths under your hands, still sticky in spots but cooperative now. You shape it into a rough round and set it in the pan lined with cloth. Another round will follow. You start again without being told. Preparing trays means quiet hands. Not fast hands, not clumsy ones. Quiet. The pewter clatters if you're careless, and if it clatters, the cook glares. You set each plate gently on the long wooden table, careful not to let edges meet. The pewter is dull with age, scratched in a way that catches the candlelight like scars. A few pieces still hold the shape of their last meal, gravy stains that dried to a gloss. You wipe those with the hem of your apron. The cold meat smells like it was boiled. Not roasted, not spiced, just boiled. A greyish slice of mutton, a wedge of congealed pudding, and half an egg that's been waiting too long to be wanted. You arrange them like you were told, meat at the top, pudding to the left, egg nestled like a secret beside the spoon. You don't taste anything. That isn't part of the job. You wonder if anyone upstairs eats the pudding or just pushes it aside with a silver fork you'll never hold. You wrap the bread in linen, though the linen is older than the bread. It smells faintly of starch and something damp that never dried properly. The rolls crumble at the corners as you tuck them in. You don't fix them, you just turn the tray so the worst parts face the wall. Each tray gets a cup. Pewter, not glass, safer that way. One is dented in a way that makes it rock when set down. You swap it out. Not because you were told, just because you don't want to see it again. The hall upstairs is a different world. The air smells of beeswax and lavender, not smoke and salt. The floors don't creak as much, and the windows are taller, draped in heavy cloth that holds the daylight at a quiet angle. You walk slowly, tray in both hands, feet gliding across rushes that are newer than the ones in your own room, though not by much. Tapestries line the walls, their threads dulled by candle soot and time. A hunting scene, a coat of arms, a lion with an expression more patient than fierce. You keep your eyes low, not bowed exactly, just. Low enough to say you're not here for company. You're here to serve. A clock ticks somewhere nearby, not loud but firm. You don't see it. You never do. The sound is part of the hall, like the rustle of skirts behind closed doors or the clink of rings against a goblet when someone gestures too widely. You knock once, soft, and wait. When the door creaks open, you step forward, tray held level. The lady doesn't look at you. She doesn't need to. You place the tray on the small table near the window and wait for a second, just in case. No words come. You back away, steps careful, tray empty now but held like it's still full. In the hallway again, you exhale. Back in the kitchen, it's louder now. The noise rises with the fire, thick with movement and the scrape of ladles against pots. Someone's dropped a spoon. Someone else is arguing about whose turn it is to fetch more onions. No one argues long, the cook ends it with a look. You return your tray to the table and wipe your hands on your apron. It leaves a smear. Old butter, maybe. But you don't care. The warmth feels almost welcome. After the silence upstairs, this chaos is its own kind of comfort. You move to the basin without being asked. There's washing to do, there always is, but someone else has started, so you wait a second. Just a second. Your fingers hover near the cloth, not quite touching it. The steam rises in lazy swirls. The girl with the knife is still peeling, now slower, more tired. She doesn't look up. You nod, though you know she won't return it. It's just something your body does. The cook calls out for herbs, and someone hands her the wrong bunch. She grumbles, swats the girl's hand away gently. Not kindly, just not unkindly. You get the right ones and pass them forward. A flicker of acknowledgement passes over her face. That's rare. You do store it. A log shifts in the hearth and sends a fresh curl of smoke into the air. You breathe it in without flinching. It smells like work, like the day getting shorter by 1 more hour. The folding room is narrow and always damp. Not wet enough to complain about, just enough to notice. The linens wait in a lopsided stack on the bench, still warm from the copper, still heavy with the smell of soap and metal. You take the first sheet and shake it once. The motion sends a mist of steam into the air and loosens the stiffness from its creases. Your fingers are cracked at the knuckles. They catch in the hem stitches as you smooth each corner. The copper's heat lingers in the fibres, warm enough to feel through the cloth. You fold once lengthwise, then again, pressing with your palms as if trying to flatten out time. The air smells like old starch and boiled lye. A few drops from the rafters above fall onto the dry stones near your feet, though you don't know where the leak is. It's been dripping for years, someone said. You believe it. The stones below it are smooth and dark, different from the rest. You stack each folded sheet carefully, lining them by the edge like bricks. No one inspects them, not closely, but you do it anyway. The folds should face outward. That's just how it's done. When you reach the last one, your arms ache from the lifting. You wipe your palms down your apron and take a breath that smells like nothing new. Copper pots again, this time already scraped, but still greasy in the corners. You settle on the stool near the back wall and grab the first one. It's large enough to hide behind if you ever wanted to. You don't. The scrub brush is newer than the last. Its bristles only half broken. A small luxury. Soap root again. You work it into the curves and lips of the pan, where oil hides and refuses to leave. You press your thumb into a stubborn patch, lean your weight into it. The copper gives slightly under your palm, dented from too many beatings. The smell of soap root mixes with the older scent of bacon fat and boiled marrow. Not unpleasant, just tired. The kind of scent that stays in your hair even after you wash. If you wash. The water in the basin is tepid now, with bits of old grease floating on the surface like someone's failed memory. You clean 2 more pans before anyone notices. The third one, lighter, misshapen, slips once, clangs against the stone floor. The cook turns her head but says nothing. You catch it before it rolls. You scrub faster now. The firelight dances across the copper. You chase the shimmer with your brush, trying to bring out something that looks like hair. The more it shines, the more it proves you were here, that you did something, even if no one says so. The cellar again. You carry the candle lower this time, half spent, dripping steadily down your wrist. It's cooler now and the air feels like it hasn't moved in days. Your shoes make soft scuffs on the floor, dragging slightly with each step. You're here for something heavier, a sack of barley or flour or meal. You can't remember which, you'll know it when you see it. The shelves are darker now. Your breath clouds briefly in front of you before vanishing. You run your fingers along the tops of bags until one gives, softer than the rest. Not quite full. You grip the cloth and hoist it over your shoulder. The seam digs into your collarbone. You shift it lower against your back. The trip up is slow. The sack sways with your movement, throwing off your rhythm. You pause halfway, hand on the wall, the candle's flame warping against the stone. Your breath echoes louder here. You keep going. At the top, the light feels sharp. The warmth of the kitchen makes your neck prickle. The cook doesn't look up. You drop the sack gently by the pantry shelves and wipe your hands down your skirt, pressing the dust into the fabric like it belongs there. You check your fingers. No blood, just grain stuck in the lines of your skin. You roll your shoulders once before turning to whatever's next. The bread is nearly ready. The dough has doubled in size beneath the linen cloth, its surface puffed and dimpled. You press a finger gently into the edge, then pull it back. The mark lingers, slowly filling. That's the sign. You nod to yourself, though no one is watching. The bake oven isn't large, but it holds enough heat to matter. You lift the lid with a folded rag, the metal hissing as cool air sneaks in. Ash clings to the edge of the bricks. You slide the loaf onto the stone with a careful nudge, then 2 more beside it. The warmth licks at your wrists. The scent starts almost immediately. That quiet, swelling smell of flour turning golden. Not sweet, not sharp, just warm. You close the oven door and sit back on your heels. There's nothing to do but wait. But waiting is work here too. You're listening for change, watching the corners of the cloth for steam, smelling for a shift from dough to crust. A girl near the table hums under her breath. The cook doesn't stop her. Maybe she doesn't hear. Maybe just this once it's allowed. The loaves rise a little more as they bake, curling at the edges where your fingers pinch them into shape. You wonder if anyone will notice that. Probably not, but you will. Evening brings stew, not that anyone calls it that. They just say supper pot, and everyone knows what it means. Whatever was left from the morning becomes something else, boiled longer, salted more, thinned with water until it stretches further than it should. You stir it without being told. The ladle is thick-handled and worn smooth where hands have held it. It's too long for the pot, and it knocks against the rim with each turn, see. You grip it lower and lean in. The heat rises into your face. You smell onions first, then cabbage. Something tougher, a root maybe, drifts up after. The broth is cloudy, not from milk, but from memory. You skim the top once, catching bits of fat and flecks of whatever the cook doesn't want seen. You toss them behind the hearth. A mouse will find them. They always do. The others move around you, collecting bowls washing up from earlier, wiping surfaces that will be dirty again by morning. The kitchen breathes more slowly now. The fire has settled. The noise has softened. Even the clatter has a tired rhythm to it. The stew thickens as the light outside fades. You don't light a candle yet. You prefer this part, the in-between glow when the hearth is enough, and no one's squinting yet. You ladle the first bowl, not for yourself. You'll eat later maybe. Maybe not. The bowls are mismatched. One is cracked near the lip, so you pour carefully. Another is still warm from earlier use. You line them along the table edge, spacing them by habit. You've never been told how far apart. You just know. The others come quietly. They don't speak until they're seated, and even then, not loudly. A few thank the cook. She nods once, then turns back to the dough she's shaping for tomorrow. You sit only when no one else needs something. Your bowl is the last one poured. The bench is hard, but it's the stillness that matters. You curl your fingers around the bowl and let the heat sink in. The smell is familiar now. Not comforting exactly, but known. You taste a small spoonful. It's hot. You wait. Then another. No bread left tonight. That was for upstairs. You scrape the bottom with your spoon, catching the pieces that sink. Thicker bites, softer onions. The small surprise of something almost sweet. You don't ask what it was. It doesn't matter. You eat quietly, facing the wall. No one looks at you, and you don't look at them, just chewing and the clink of spoons and the sound of someone coughing behind their sleeve. You wonder for a second what the upstairs kitchen sounds like at this hour. You imagine it's cleaner. You're probably wrong. The bread is nearly ready. The dough has doubled in size beneath the linen cloth, its surface puffed and dimpled. You press a finger gently into the edge, then pull it back. The mark lingers, slowly filling. That's the sign. You nod to yourself, though no one is watching. The bake oven isn't large, but it holds enough heat to matter. You lift the lid with a folded rag, the metal hissing as cool air sneaks in. Ash clings to the edge of the bricks. You slide the loaf onto the stone with a careful nudge, then two more beside it. The warmth licks at your wrists. The scent starts almost immediately. That quiet, swelling smell of flour turning golden. Not sweet, not sharp, just warm. You close the oven door and sit back on your heels. There's nothing to do but wait. But waiting is work here too. You're listening for change, watching the corners of the cloth for steam, smelling for a shift from dough to crust. A girl near the table hums under her breath. The cook doesn't stop her. Maybe she doesn't hear. Maybe just this once it's allowed. The loaves rise a little more as they bake, curling at the edges where your fingers pinch them into shape. You wonder if anyone will notice that. Probably not, but you will. Evening brings stew, not that anyone calls it that. They just say supper pot, and everyone knows what it means. Whatever was left from the morning becomes something else, boiled longer, salted more, thinned with water until it stretches further than it should. You stir it without being told. The ladle is thick-handled and worn smooth where hands have held it. It's too long for the pot, and it knocks against the rim with each turn, see. You grip it lower and lean in. The heat rises into your face. You smell onions first, then cabbage. Something tougher, a root maybe, drifts up after. The broth is cloudy, not from milk, but from memory. You skim the top once, catching bits of fat and flecks of whatever the cook doesn't want seen. You toss them behind the hearth. A mouse will find them. They always do. The others move around you, collecting bowls washing up from earlier, wiping surfaces that will be dirty again by morning. The kitchen breathes more slowly now. The fire has settled. The noise has softened. Even the clatter has a tired rhythm to it. The stew thickens as the light outside fades. You don't light a candle yet. You prefer this part, the in-between glow when the hearth is enough, and no one's squinting yet. You ladle the first bowl, not for yourself. You'll eat later maybe. Maybe not. The bowls are mismatched. One is cracked near the lip, so you pour carefully. Another is still warm from earlier use. You line them along the table edge, spacing them by habit. You've never been told how far apart. You just know. The others come quietly. They don't speak until they're seated, and even then, not loudly. A few thank the cook. She nods once, then turns back to the dough she's shaping for tomorrow. You sit only when no one else needs something. Your bowl is the last one poured. The bench is hard, but it's the stillness that matters. You curl your fingers around the bowl and let the heat sink in. The smell is familiar now. Not comforting exactly, but known. You taste a small spoonful. It's hot. You wait. Then another. No bread left tonight. That was for upstairs. You scrape the bottom with your spoon, catching the pieces that sink. Thicker bites, softer onions. The small surprise of something almost sweet. You don't ask what it was. It doesn't matter. You eat quietly, facing the wall. No one looks at you, and you don't look at them, just chewing and the clink of spoons and the sound of someone coughing behind their sleeve. You wonder for a second what the upstairs kitchen sounds like at this hour. You imagine it's cleaner. You're probably wrong. When the bowls are cleared, you don't rest. The benches must be wiped, though most were barely used. You wet a cloth in the basin and wring it out over your wrist. The water drips past your cuff and into the fold of your elbow again. You don't flinch. You've stopped flinching at cold. The crumbs scatter more than they gather. You brush them into your palm and then into the fire. The ones you miss cling to the wood grain like they mean to stay. The bench is old, carved with initials you don't recognise. Probably not from servants. More likely from someone visiting once long ago, when the kitchen was newer and someone else knelt where you are now. The cloth catches on a splinter. You rub harder, not because it helps, but because it's what you're supposed to do. Your shoulders ache from the forward hunch, but it feels strange to stand straight now. You press your knuckles into your back for a moment, then continue. The cook has gone quiet. She's rubbing her eyes at the table, not crying, just tired in the way that looks like sadness but isn't. The fire spits once as if to fill the silence, then settles again. You finish the last bench and hang the cloth to dry. It drips into a pan on the floor, plinking softly like the end of a thought. The hearth needs sweeping before it dies down. The edges are choked with ash and the crumbled ends of old kindling. You take the brush, stiff-bristled and short-handled, and crouch low. The heat still pulses from the stones, enough to sting your cheeks. You start in one corner, dragging the soot toward the centre, where it can be scooped. It smells of old tallow and smoke-dried thyme. You find a bent nail, a bit of string, something soft that used to be food. You don't ask what. You flick it aside and keep sweeping. Each push of the brush raises a fine grey mist that catches in the light like it means something. Your breath fogs it briefly. You move around the edge of the hearth, careful not to knock the pan hooks. One of them falls once a week and always startles someone. Not tonight. Tonight you're careful. The sound of the brush is low and scratchy, the kind of noise that fills your ears after a long day of louder things. It's almost kind, this sound, almost yours. You keep at it until the stones look cleaner, though never clean. The kind of clean that says someone tried, and that will have to do. When you rise, your knees complain. You stretch your legs by stepping backward, arms dangling like dead weight, then turn to find where the pan went. The aprons are refolded at the end of each day. Not washed, just folded. You smooth each one flat, even the ones too stiff to lie properly. The smell of starch hangs in the air, faint but clinging. It smells like effort, like trying to seem put together even when no one's looking. You fold on the same bench where the laundry dried hours ago. It's still warm here, still damp at the corners of the fabric. You line the aprons into a pile, one atop another, corners tucked in, strings looped loosely over the top like wilted stems. Some are newer, stiffer, still holding their creases. Others are soft and thinning, frayed at the edges where ties meet cloth. You know which ones belong to whom, not by names, you don't use those, but by stains. The cook's apron smells faintly of onions. The girl with the knife has one dark mark that never washes out, beetroot or blood. It's hard to tell now. Yours is just worn, a little burn at the hem, a tear near the pocket where a nail caught it last week. You set yours at the bottom of the pile. No reason, just habit. Just how the day folds in on itself at the end. You stretch your arms once overhead and feel the ache behind your shoulders. The heat from the fire has faded. The air has cooled. You look around, but no one needs anything. Not right now. You wait a moment before moving again. The kitchen has gone quiet now. Not the hush of early morning, but a different stillness, and deeper, like the room is breathing slower than before. You stand in the doorway, just watching. The fire's nothing but glowing coals and a curl of smoke that doesn't bother to rise. The big pot has been pushed aside, the benches are empty. The air smells of baked flour, old wood, and something sweet that never got served. You don't step forward yet. Just lean against the frame, arms crossed, eyes soft. There's nothing left to carry, nothing left to stir. The cook has gone upstairs. The others drifted off one by one, shoes scuffing the floor, yawns half hidden in sleeves. You glance toward the hearth. The warmth is still there, a low pulse in the stones. You think about sitting, not to rest exactly, just to exist without movement. But you don't. You stand a while longer. The silence lets you notice small things. The way the light from the last candle flickers against the spoon left on the edge of the basin. The faint ticking from the wall clock, though it doesn't chime. A mouse rustling near the sacks. Too quiet to disturb. You wonder if it's the same one from this morning. Probably not. They all look the same when they run. You rub your palm along your opposite arm, brushing away flour that's been there all day. It floats off into the dim light and disappears. You eat standing up. It's not a rule, but it happens that way most nights. A crust of bread left from earlier, stale at the edges, but soft in the middle if you hold it in your mouth long enough. You dip it once into the stew pot, now lukewarm, and bite. The kitchen is too quiet to chew loudly. You take small bites. The kind that last longer, even if they satisfy less. There's no one to speak to, no one to share with. Just the bench beside you and a spoon you don't remember setting down. You chew with your back to the wall, feet tucked close beneath your skirt. You don't sit. The stone is too cold now and there's no fire to lean toward. You eat because it feels like a pause, not a meal. The broth is mostly gone, but you tilt the pot and catch the last mouthful. It tastes like everything and nothing, onion, water, salt, and something bitter left too long. You swallow and wipe your mouth with your sleeve. No one calls for you, no one notices. That's a comfort, in a way. You set the bowl back on the table and glance at the windows. The fog has returned. It presses soft and full against the glass, making the candle's reflection look like someone standing outside. You know it's just light. Still, you don't look for long. You wipe the table slow, not because it needs it, just because your hands need something to do. The rag is already dry, it drags more than it cleans. You push crumbs into your palm, then into the hearth. A rhythm you've done too often to count. The surface beneath your hand is worn smooth by years of this same motion. You think of all the others who've wiped here. Girls with different names, different aprons. You wonder if they stood like you, bone-tired and quiet, just trying to outlast the day. The walls hold on to the heat longer than they should. The stones closest to the hearth still breathe out warmth, but only faintly. You rest your hand against them as you pass, fingers spread like you're listening for a pulse. There's a smear of something on your skirt. Could be flour, could be wax. You don't brush it off. You might wear the same skirt tomorrow. It'll blend in with the rest. You glance toward the door. It's not quite closed. The wind has made it shift again, just enough to let the fog in along the floor. It curls near your shoes. You don't move. There's peace in these last minutes. Not rest, not yet, but something near it. The hearth needs tending one last time, not for heat. It won't throw much warmth under now, but to tame the glow. You take the iron poker, still warm from earlier, and nudge the coals inward. They break softly like crusted snow, falling into one another with a dry hush. You gather the candle ends while the fire settles. Little stubs of wax too short for holders, too soft to stand on their own. You trim the wicks with the small scissors the cook keeps near her ledger, careful to catch the threads in your palm. You set the stubs aside, they'll be melted down tomorrow. Every scrap is used, every bit of light saved for another night. The wax smells faintly of tallow, faintly of herbs if the candle was poured by the mistress herself. You can never tell until it's lit. You place one stub on the edge of the windowsill. It doesn't balance well. You press it down with your thumb until it squishes slightly, enough to stand till it casts a low, puddled light that doesn't reach the corners. That's all right. You don't need to see the corners. You step back and look around the room one more time, not for inspection, just to see it as it is. Quiet, dim, everything still, like the kitchen is holding its breath. The chickens get the crumbs. You gather them with the same cloth you used on the benches, shake it gently over your palm, fold it again and carry the bits in your hand. The back door groans when you open it. Not a loud sound, just a tired one. Outside the night is damp. The fog hasn't lifted. It clings to your hair and catches in your breath. The path to the coop is uneven. You step carefully, feeling for the worn stones with your toes. The crumbs are still warm. You toss them near the edge of the yard where the hens will find them at dawn. You don't see the chickens. They've roosted already, tucked up tight and hidden in the rafters of the little lean-to. You picture them there, silent and still, warmer than you are, and feel a strange kind of envy. But not the sharp kind, just a passing thought. The cold settles in your collar. You pull your shawl tighter, though it does little. The stars are lost behind the clouds. There's no moon tonight, only the faint shine of the kitchen window behind you. You stand a moment longer than needed. The quiet is whole here. No footsteps, no orders. Just your own breath and the far-off creak of something wooden. Maybe a door, or maybe the coop. You drop the last few crumbs and head back inside. The cloths are hung one by one. You drape them over the line above the hearth, though the fire's mostly gone now. They'll still dry some. You smooth each piece with your palm, tug the corners straight, leave just enough space between them to keep them from touching. Damp linen has its own scent, not sour, not clean, just something in between, familiar. The fabric stiffens as it cools. You feel it change beneath your fingers, a slow transformation, like something falling asleep while standing. You check the corners out of habit, pinching one edge to see if it drips. It does. A single drop falls onto the stone with a sound so soft it's almost imagined. You hang the last cloth and rest your hands on your hips. The room is nearly dark now. The candle on the sill flickers once more, then settles. You don't relight it. You roll your sleeves back down. The fabric scratches where it meets your wrists, but it's a small price for warmth. Your hands are dry now, but the cracks remain. You flex your fingers slowly, watching the joints move like old hinges. Nothing moves in the room but the cloths, gently shifting in a draft you can't feel. The fire offers no more than a glow now. Not heat, just memory. Putting out the fires isn't just about the flames. It's about the coals, the embers, the soft light that stays even after the heat fades. You take the poker again, moving slow, careful, not to send sparks where they shouldn't go. The ash settles like dust over the glowing red. It doesn't resist. You place the iron lid over the stew pot and tuck the cloth against its edge. The lid clicks softly, metal on metal. One of the girls said that keeps the warmth in longer. You don't know if it's true, but you do it anyway. You use the shovel to shift the remaining coals toward the centre, forming a small pile that looks like the heart of something still breathing. Then slowly, you scatter a few ashes over the top, dimming the light even more. The kitchen grows darker in pieces. The fire first, then the candle. You snuff it with your fingers, a practiced pinch. The room sighs with the loss of light. Your eyes adjust to the gloom as they always do. Smoke curls upward in thin ribbons. Not urgent, not rising, just drifting. You follow it with your eyes, then let them fall to the stone floor, which now reflects nothing. You sit for a moment on the hearth's edge. Not long, just enough to feel the warmth that's left in the stones, and then let it go. You check the corners before leaving. It's not a rule, but it's what's done. The pantry door is latched. The basin is drained. The knives are on their hooks, the sharp ones wiped dry, the dull ones still waiting for your next free moment. The linen stack leans a little to the left. You straighten it. The bench is cold now when you rest your hand on it. The grain of the wood rises like a fingerprint. You trace a line without thinking. Just your finger moving across the same place you cleaned an hour ago. Nothing changes. That's the point. The floor holds the last warmth of the day. You walk slowly across it, listening to the soft shift of your skirts against your legs. The stone doesn't echo, it absorbs. Everything does. At the door you look back once. The hearth is nearly out. The cloth still drip faintly into the pan. The candle stub has cooled to a puddle. Everything in place. Everything waiting for morning. You draw the door closed behind you, gently enough not to wake the night. The pantry is where you sleep. Not officially, but the others have beds or cots or shared mattresses in the servants' loft. You have this, a space beside the shelves where the turnips are kept and the potatoes forget their names. Your bed is a sack. It once held flour. Now it holds you, not comfortably, but consistently. There's a blanket thin and scratchy that you fold double for warmth. You leave your apron on but undo the ties. It's the closest thing to taking it off. The air smells of earth and dry burlap. It's not unpleasant, not sweet either, just what you know. You rest your back against the wall and pull your knees to your chest. The blanket drapes over your shoulders. It doesn't cover your toes. You listen for sounds above, the faint thud of someone walking, the creak of a floorboard, a distant cough. It's like eavesdropping on a quieter world. You don't mind. There's one candle stub left. You light it only long enough to see your hands smudged with flour. Faint lines of soot in the creases. A hangnail you'll deal with tomorrow. You blow the candle out before it burns down too far. The dark returns quickly. You close your eyes, though it makes little difference. The pantry doesn't change. The sounds upstairs don't fade completely. They just thin. A laugh floats down the stairs. Soft, stretched out by distance. Not cruel, not kind, just far away. Someone closes a door gently, then another, sharper, with a click that echoes longer than it should. You listen from your blanket. The pantry walls muffle most of it, but the cracks near the ceiling let in pieces. Footsteps cross wooden floors, light ones, not boots, probably slippers. You imagine someone lifting a goblet, a chair pushed back from a table, the rustle of skirts you have never touched. They move in a different rhythm up there, slower, as if the hours come more gently. You try not to resent it. Some days you manage. A soft thud, maybe a dropped shoe, lands somewhere above your shoulder. Then silence again, the kind that's real this time. Not the hush of listening, but the weightless quiet of no one being awake. You shift on the sack, trying not to wake the bruise on your hip. You pull the blanket higher, though it doesn't help much. The root cellar smell deepens at night, burlap and starch, the metallic tang of raw potatoes, something like dried grass. You breathe through your nose and count to 5, then 10, then nothing at all. Your hands rest in your lap, fingers laced loosely, knuckles dusty even now. They don't stop moving at first, twitching slightly, remembering tasks that no longer need doing. You press your palms together, then apart, then still. They're sore in the usual places, the base of your thumbs, the soft web between finger and palm, the first joint on your middle finger where the knife always presses. You touch the callus without thinking. It feels like someone else's skin. You lift your hand to your face just to see it in the dark. Your nails are rimmed with a line of something, flour or soot or both. You don't try to wipe it off, it'll still be there in the morning. You tuck your hands beneath the blanket. That helps. They warm faster that way, hidden against your stomach. You lie very still now. Your ears adjust. You hear your breath before anything else. Then the slow creak of the beams above, answering a gust of wind outside. You picture the fog curling along the edge of the window pane upstairs, the same way it did this morning. You wonder if the fire is still glowing, if the coals outlasted your footsteps. Probably not, but you like to think they did. The candle is gone, the dark is full, you don't move anymore, not even to shift your feet. The ache in your shoulder blends with the chill beneath your spine, but neither demands anything. They're just there, part of the quiet now. You stare at nothing, not because you're lost in thought, but because there's nowhere to look. The black is gentle, not heavy, just wide. Your breath slows without you meaning to. Your chest barely rises. A small sound from your lip, not a sigh, not a word, slips out and vanishes into the folds of the cloth. You're not sure you meant anything by it. You just let it go. Your legs uncurl slightly, one foot pressing against the wall. The stone is cool and smooth, a contrast to the sack which crackles faintly as the straw inside shifts. You pull the blanket tighter. A thought crosses your mind, but it doesn't stick. Something about tomorrow, or maybe something you forgot. Either way, it passes. The dark is quiet now, and so are you. Sleep doesn't come all at once. It drifts in slowly, like the fog that pressed against the window this morning. Your thoughts are soft now, rounded at the edges. You don't chase them, you just let them pass, like watching ripples in a bucket that's already settled. Your shoulder twitches once, your toes curl and uncurl beneath the blanket. You adjust your leg without thinking, then grow still again. Stillness now is the only thing left to do. The root cellar groans faintly in the timbers. A mouse shuffles in the corner, too small to see but loud enough to notice. You don't open your eyes. It's not a sound that requires a response. You hear your own breathing again, slower now, quieter. It fills the space just enough. The blanket rises and falls like it's exhaling with you. You rest one hand on your stomach, thumb rubbing lightly along the edge of the coarse cloth. Somewhere above, a shutter rattles against its hinge. You know that sound. It won't come loose. You don't need to check. Your body is heavy. Not weighed down, just fully here, fully done. The kind of tired that goes all the way to your bones. You don't dream, not really. If you do, they're quiet things, half scenes and old places. A bit of soap floating in a tin basin, the curve of a spoon catching firelight, a breeze from the loft that never made it downstairs. Sometimes you see a room you've never been in, but it smells familiar. Or you walk a hallway that echoes like the kitchen after supper. None of it means much, and none of it stays. Sleep isn't sharp, it's not a plunge or a fall. It's a slow fading, like the last curl of steam from a pot that's just been moved off the fire. Your hand relaxes, slipping from your stomach to the floor. Your mouth opens slightly, not enough to dry, just enough to forget the shape of speech. Your breath stays steady. You don't hear it anymore. The straw beneath you shifts again, settling into the imprint of your back. Your head tilts toward the wall, and the knot in your hair presses gently into the sackcloth. You'll fix it in the morning. Or not. Nothing presses in now. Not sound, not thought. Just the weight of sleep, quiet and slow and sure, tucking itself into the space between your ribs. You don't hear the candle gutter out. It already did. The last bit of wax cooled hours ago. You don't feel the draft from the cracked door. It shifted, but didn't reach you. You don't notice the weight of the blanket anymore. You've grown into it. There's no reckoning of hours, no counting down toward morning. The dark has taken its shape and decided to stay a little longer. You move only when you breathe, slow, even, fading. The pantry is quiet. More than that, it's still. Even the mice seem to know now's not the time. The potatoes don't sprout, the shelves don't creak, the stones don't shift. Everything waits, and you, not thinking, not dreaming, not moving, are simply here. Just breath, just dark, just sleep. The morning hasn't come yet, but something shifts. Not light, not time, just the sense that a page is waiting to turn. The quiet has a new texture, less final. You don't wake, not fully, but your fingers twitch once under the blanket. The smallest reminder that there will be a beginning again. A breeze threads through the crack beneath the pantry door. Not cold, but insistent. It moves the hem of your dress where it spills off the edge of the sack, just enough to stir it, then still again. You don't notice, not really, but your body does. Your shoulders pull in tighter, your knees draw upward. The blanket slides with you, gathering beneath your chin like a breath being held. The sound of a distant door latch lifting floats down the hall. Not loud, just enough to stir the wood. Someone waking early or never having gone to sleep. The pantry remains dark, the root vegetables remain silent, but the space around you has begun to loosen. Not with urgency, just readiness. Sleep is still present, but it knows its place. It begins to retreat without argument. The night stretches once more before letting go. The ceiling above you is still invisible, but you know its shape. The low beams, the gap where the plaster cracked last winter and no one fixed it. You don't need to see it. You've mapped it already. Every creak and flaw. Your feet stretch out beneath the blanket, toes brushing the rough weave at the end. The cold makes itself known again. It never left, just waited for a pause in sleep to say hello. You curl slightly just to answer it, and pull your knees in. One eye opens, not from habit, from air. The smell has changed, slightly sharper. The distant trace of soot meeting new smoke. Someone is backing the kitchen hearth. Someone is beating life back into it. Your breath fogs faintly in front of you. You close your mouth and tuck your nose into the fold of the blanket. The burlap smells like yesterday and the day before. You don't mind. There is no hurry, the others will rise soon. Not yet. You have these minutes to yourself, this place between no longer and not yet. You don't need to move, just listen. The first footfall sounds in the corridor. Someone's heel catching on a board you already know to avoid. They curse, but not loudly. You don't smile, but it happens somewhere in your chest. The pantry shifts, not in temperature or light, but in belonging. You're still alone here, but not for long. The roots beneath the pantry shelves stay quiet. They do not judge your delay in rising. The sacks are still. The boards under your bed have not bowed, despite your weight. The kitchen does not call yet. And so you stay. You shift 1 foot out from beneath the blanket. The cold finds it immediately. Your toes flex once, then you slide the rest of your legs outward, slowly, with the resigned weight of someone waking more in body than in mind. You sit upright. The motion creaks in your knees, clicks in your spine. You rest your elbows on them, your chin in your hands. Not to think, just to pause. Your hair is heavy over one shoulder. You forgot to rebraid it last night. It's loose and tangled now, hanging like rope that's done its job. You finger a knot gently, then let it go. There's no light in the pantry still, but it's a different kind of dark. The kind where things are almost visible. The cloth of your skirt, the edge of the empty basin, the curl of the door's bottom plank. You don't move further yet. Just sit, breathing slowly, remembering the shape of your hands in the quiet. Eventually you rise, not from alarm, not from instruction, just gravity paired with a day that expects your feet to meet the floor. The stone is cold. You feel it through the soles of your shoes, even though they've been drying by the door since last night. You tie your apron on without checking the knot. Your fingers know the rhythm, left tie, right tie, pull, loop, tuck. It doesn't need thought anymore. Most things don't. You rub your hand along your skirt to smooth it, but the wrinkles don't mind staying. The pantry door resists slightly, swollen from the fog or from being closed too long. You give it a firmer push. It opens with a soft gasp, like the house itself is surprised to see you up. The corridor outside is grey. Morning hasn't entered properly, only hinted at itself. The air tastes like ash and damp stone. You walk past the cracks in the wall without looking at them. You already know which ones are new. Your steps make no sound at first. Then a floorboard groans behind you, though you didn't step there. You pause, not startled, just noticing. The door to the kitchen is open. A candle burns on the centre table, half used, its wax forming a lip over the edge of the holder. The cook is already there, hunched over the ledger, her lips moving silently as she counts. She doesn't look up. You nod anyway, though your eyes are still adjusting. The hearth is bare, just soot and memory. You kneel beside it, gathering the kindling that someone else left crooked. It doesn't matter who. You'll fix it anyway. The logs are stacked nearby, still damp from yesterday's fog. You choose the driest of the lot, tucking it between smaller sticks, then blowing gently on the tiny flame the cook set moments ago. It catches slowly. First a crackle, then a split, then light. The fire breathes into the space with a sound like someone waking. The warmth doesn't reach you yet, but it will. The cook flips a page in her ledger and hums a single low note. Not a song, just a sound to hold her place. You rub your hands near the fire. The soot transfers easily to your knuckles. The others begin to arrive. Soft feet on stone, half-laced shoes, aprons thrown on, still wrinkled. No one speaks yet. There's no need. They move around the room like ghosts returning to a place they never really left. You take the pot from the shelf and carry it to the hearth. Same pot, same spot, same day, just folded back into itself. You scoop water into the basin and carry it steady, watching the ripples tremble with each step. You don't spill. The porridge will come next. The same oats, the same ladle, but for a moment there's only the water heating and the soft hush of the kitchen waking with you. You stand beside the fire, not warming your hands now, just resting them against your sides. Your fingers twitch slightly, unused to the stillness. Someone yawns behind you. Another bumps a stool and apologizes without sound. You look down at your feet. The hem of your dress brushes the stone as you shift weight from one leg to the other. You trace a crack in the floor with the tip of your shoe, a game you've played too many times to call it anything. The fire is steady now, no longer new, not yet old. It glows against the copper pans that still need scouring. You'll get to them later. You dip a ladle into the basin and pour a little water into the pot. It hisses against the iron. The sound is satisfying, honest. The first light of morning finally filters through the slats of the window. It's weak and blue and doesn't reach far. But it's enough to name this moment as the start of a new day. And without thinking, you begin. The morning isn't bright, but it doesn't need to be. It arrives with the rhythm of things, the clank of the ladle, the shift of foot on stone, the first scrape of a bench being moved before someone sits. These are your bells. This is your dawn. You stir the oats slowly, careful not to let them settle. The fire behaves today. It doesn't snap, doesn't smoke, just heat, steady and silent. You breathe through your nose, catching the scent of steam and something faintly metallic from the iron pot. Someone hands you a pinch of salt. You don't ask who, you just sprinkle it in, watching the granules disappear. A swirl, a drag of the spoon, then stillness again. No one is in a hurry. That only comes later, when the trays are due and the boots must shine and someone finds out the barley is running low. For now, it's just work. Not loud, not soft, just the thing that happens before anything else. The cook stretches her back and ties her scarf tighter. One of the younger girls has her eyes half closed, but her hands keep peeling. You glance towards the basin. It's half full already. You stir again. The oats have thickened, soft and pale. The pot smells like yesterday, but not in a bad way. The trays are stacked, waiting. Pewter, as always. The same dents, the same scratches, the same weight in your arms. You lift the top one and begin arranging the morning meal. A heel of bread, a slice of yesterday's meat, one soft egg. The linen wraps were folded the night before. You unfold one now, smoothing it with your hand before laying it over the roll. The cloth is still faintly damp. It holds the smell of the drying line and smoke. You tuck the spoon beside the plate and pause, for no reason really, just to feel the moment before the next task starts. The others move around you. One pours water into a cup. One fumbles with a napkin. Someone coughs once and wipes her nose on her sleeve. No one says anything about it. You stack 2 more trays. You balance them easily. Your arms remember this. The weight feels right, not light, not heavy, just yours. The door creaks open, the steward nods. It's time. You lift your stack, steady your elbows, and step into the hall. Your footsteps are quiet. Your eyes stay low, but your spine stays straight. No one asked you to. You just do. The hall is brighter now, though not by much. The windows let in more grey than gold. A breeze slips past one unlatched shutter, stirring the tapestry in a lazy wave. You walk softly across the rushes, careful to keep the trays level. The upstairs is quiet in a different way. Not empty, just self-contained. You feel it in the hush behind the doors, in the echo of your steps. You move like a whisper. Expected, but not noticed. You reach the first chamber. Knock once. No answer. The door opens anyway, someone already waiting on the other side. They take the tray without a word. You nod and leave. At the second door, a girl in lace accepts the tray with a look that passes through you. She smells of rosewater and sleep. Her nails are clean. She doesn't thank you. You didn't expect her to. You return down the corridor with 1 tray left. It feels lighter now. The plates are the same, but the distance has shifted something. You pass the narrow window and pause. Outside, the fog is lifting. A bird darts across the field. The trees sway as though they've only just remembered to move. You exhale and keep walking. Back in the kitchen, the bowls have already been cleared. The pot is half empty now, a line of oats crusted to the rim. Someone's forgotten to scrape it yet. You don't mind. You set the last tray down and untie your apron, loosening it for just a breath before retying it again. The morning is louder now. Not sharp, not rushed, just fuller. The girls are moving faster. The cook has unrolled her sleeves and wiped her forehead once already. The basin sloshes as someone empties it. A stool is dragged across the floor without care. You cross to the drying rack and check the cloths. Most are stiff now. One is still damp at the corner. You tug it free and fold it lengthwise, then across. It holds its shape with a kind of obedience. You glance toward the hearth. It's holding strong. The wood burns clean. The copper pans above it catch bits of light now. Not enough to shine, but enough to remember how. The air smells like ash and soap and flour. And behind it all, something softer, the kind of scent that only comes when the work is being done properly. You don't have a name for it, but it's the same every day, around this hour. You take a cloth and begin wiping down the shelves. Not because they're dirty, they're never truly clean, but because something in your body needs the motion. The wood is smooth in places, splintered in others. Your fingers know where to press lightly. Each jar is moved aside and then returned. Dried herbs, flour sacks tied with twine, an old tin of something no one's labelled in years. You don't open it, just dust the top and let it be. The shelf smells of chalk and rosemary. You breathe through your mouth, not because it's strong, but because it's steady. You could name the scent without turning around. Behind you someone laughs, not at you, not because of anything. Just a small sound shared between two of the others. You pause only for a second and then keep going. The cloth catches on a knot in the wood. You smooth it with your thumb. The shelf is long, it gives your mind something to do. A row of cups, a chipped bowl, a ladle with a handle burned dark from use. You pick it up and turn it over in your hand once before setting it back down. Your cloth comes away grey. You fold it over and start again. The kitchen clock ticks now, louder than it did earlier. Not because the sound has changed, but because the day has. You're more awake, which means you notice more. Every tick feels like it's marking something specific, though it isn't. You stretch your back slowly, careful not to draw attention. One shoulder pops. The sound is soft, but you feel it deep. You press your palm there for a moment, then drop it. The girl at the basin has finished with the knives. She stacks them carefully in the wooden rack, wet blades glinting for just a second before disappearing. You nod at her. She doesn't see it, but the gesture holds anyway. You return to the hearth and stir the last of the porridge before scraping it into the bucket. It'll go to the animals, if not the chickens, then the sill. Waste has no place here. You rinse the pot with the remaining warm water. The steam smells like oats and iron. You hold the pot at an angle until the last bit pours out, then leave it to dry by the fire. It leans slightly. The bottom warped long ago. Someone opens the back door. A gust of cooler air brushes your ankles. The morning is fully here now. The fog has lifted, even if you haven't seen it. You wipe your hands on your apron, then begin again. The scullery is already wet again. Someone spilled a bucket by accident, but no one mentions it. You step carefully through the puddle, skirt lifted slightly, shoes squelching faintly as the flagstones steal back the warmth your feet earned by the fire. You crouch to right the fallen bucket. Its handle has cracked at the join, bending inward like a closed hand. You run your finger along the break, then wrap it with a strip of cloth, not to fix it properly, just to hold it together for today. That's how things last here. Not by mending, but by managing. You wipe the spilled water with the heel of your palm and the edge of an old rag. The rag is cold, you expect that, but the smell surprises you, mildew and soap and something sharper like vinegar or old onions. The other girls work around you, stepping over and past without speaking. It isn't rudeness, it's rhythm. You wipe faster to keep from being in the way. Your knees press against the cold stone. Your back curves to the motion. You look up only once, when someone drops a spoon and mutters a quiet curse. The sound is small and ordinary. You go back to the floor. By the time the puddle's gone, the bucket is standing again. It leans slightly, but it will hold. You move to the wash table. A pile of root vegetables waits, dull and muddy. Not enough for supper, not yet. You take the knife from its hook, still slightly wet from earlier, and begin peeling. The motion is familiar. Scrape, twist, discard. The paring knife catches once on a soft spot in the carrot and drags too deep. You adjust your grip and keep going. The skins fall into a wooden bowl that smells faintly of yeast. One of the other girls joins you, her knife already in hand. You don't speak, you just work together, blades scraping in rhythm. A third girl comes after a moment, then a fourth. The table fills, but no one pushes. The peels pile higher. Some are thin, others thick. The roots beneath are crooked and lumpy, but solid. You work without looking up much. Only once, when a pigeon thuds softly onto the windowsill. It flaps once and leaves again. No one stops. The rhythm deepens. Scrape, flick, drop. Someone hums, tuneless and low, just enough to hang in the air without meaning. You cut a beat last. It stains your thumb red. You wipe it on your apron and watch the mark fade. After the peeling comes the pause. Not a break. No one calls it that. Just a moment when no one's giving orders and no one's making noise. The kitchen shifts again, like it's drawing breath before the noon hours begin. You lean your hip against the table. Just enough weight to rest, not enough to wrinkle your dress. Your hands are idle but not relaxed. They still feel the shape of the knife, the rhythm of the peel. You flex your fingers once, then fold them together. The cook stands near the hearth, reading something on a stained scrap of paper. Her lips move without sound. She frowns, then folds it in half and slides it into her pocket. You don't ask what it said. You glance at the window. The fog has lifted entirely. The field beyond looks flat and wet, but the light has changed and less grey now, more gold. The kind of gold that promises nothing but makes the air feel kinder. You straighten up, brush your skirt and turn toward the basin. The pots won't clean themselves, but you know which ones are waiting. The pots are stacked beside the basin, greasy and quiet. They've already cooled. One has a film of fat on the rim that's gone solid. You don't mind. That's better than hot, sometimes. You roll up your sleeves and dip your hands into the water, which is still warm enough to sting. The soap-root lather foams slightly, but you've learned not to expect bubbles. It's not that kind of soap. It works best when ignored. You begin with the smallest pot, turning it slowly as the grease lifts in streaks. The girl next to you hands you a brush without a word. You nod and switch hands, gripping it just above the wire binding so the wood doesn't catch your knuckles. Your fingers ache in familiar places. One by one, the pots return to a dull kind of clean, not gleaming but acceptable. The kind of clean that says someone did the work. You stack them on a rag near the hearth, each set upside down to drain. A few wobble, you press them flat. The last pot is blackened at the bottom. Someone burned stew in it last week. You scrape at it without judgment. It's just soot and time. When you finish the washing, your arms feel heavier. Not tired, just used. You dry your hands on the hem of your skirt and rubbing one palm into the wool until it doesn't shine anymore. Then you sit for a moment near the door. Only your feet move now, tracing slow circles against the flagstones. The sunlight has warmed the top of the bench. You lean back into it. Not to rest exactly, just to be still while the room moves around you. The cook is slicing something sharp. The others are scraping bowls, clearing space, hauling flour. Someone asks for twine. Someone else answers. You let the words pass through your ears like wind. Nothing for you to do for a breath or two. Nothing except exist in the hum of a room that no longer notices you, which, in its own way, is a comfort. The window creaks open. Someone props it with a crooked spoon. A rush of air slips in, smelling faintly of field and ash. It lifts a few pages on the table. The cook presses them down without looking. You watch the dust float in the new light. Each speck moves slowly, not quite falling. There is a bowl of apple cores near the hearth, not fresh, not forgotten, just waiting to become something else. You pick one up and bite around the edge, careful to avoid the seed. It tastes like yesterday's fruit, softened slightly, sweet enough to keep. The girl beside you asks if there are more. You hand her one without speaking. She nods. You both eat in silence, chewing slowly, looking out the window even though there's not much to see, just light, just sky. The apple is gone quickly. You wipe your fingers on your apron and toss the core back into the bowl. Someone will take it to the chickens later. Maybe you. The cook ties a new cloth over her hair. The noise in the room starts to rise again. You feel it in the way people stand. More upright now, more ready. Something always comes next. A delivery, a task, a tray to prepare. You stretch your legs and stand. The sun has shifted. It catches the edge of a copper pan above the hearth and turns it golden just for a moment, before fading again. You almost smile, but don't. There's talk of bread. Not urgent, just a murmur passed between two girls at the table. The flour was milled too fine this week, or maybe not enough. Depends on who you ask. Either way, the dough needs kneading and the bowl waits. You step toward it and dust your hands with what's left on the cutting board. The flour is pale and soft. It clings to your skin like sleep. You press your palms into the mound of dough, feeling it give and push back, give again. There's a rhythm to it. Heel, press, fold, turn, and your weight moves forward into your hands. The table creaks once beneath you. Someone passes behind you, brushing your shoulder with their apron string. You don't stop. The dough is stubborn today. The air is dry. It resists the shape you want. You keep going anyway. By the third fold, it starts to listen. By the fourth, it stops complaining. Your hands are covered now, palms dusted white, fingers sticky in places. You press your thumb into the side once, watching the indent hold. Then you let it go. Someone lays out a cloth. You lift the dough and set it beneath. It rests the way you wish you could. The bucket outside needs emptying. No one says it, but you know. You lift it by the handle, still slightly warm from where it sat beside the hearth. It sloshes faintly. Not heavy, but enough to tilt your steps if you're careless. The back door groans again as you open it. The air is different now, no longer fogged, no longer wet, just plain and still and wide. You step outside and feel the light on your cheek. Not sun, not yet, but a promise of it. You follow the worn path past the shed. The grass is patchy and flat. Someone's boot print from yesterday is filled with dew. You don't step in it to untim. You walk beside it. The refuse ditch behind the coop steams slightly, where the last bucket cooled. You pour slowly, careful not to splash. The smell rises but doesn't linger. It never does. The wind knows worse to carry it elsewhere. You set the bucket down to rest. Just a second, just to stand without it. You look toward the tree line beyond the fence. The trees are still bare. A bird hops between branches, feathers puffed against the breeze. You stretch your arm once behind your back, then pick the bucket up again. It's lighter now, easier. Back in the kitchen, you rinse the bucket at the basin, scrubbing the inside with your hand and a fistful of sand. The sound is familiar, a grainy scrape, steady and slow. You tip the water out and leave the bucket on its side, mouth open to the air. You dry your hands without thinking. Cloth to palm, squeeze once, hang the towel. Someone else takes your place without a word. The work never stops. It just shifts hands. The dough has risen slightly in the bowl. You nod at it, as if to say, good. Not perfect, but enough. You roll your shoulders. The ache is there again, behind your neck this time. You press your fingers to it briefly, then reach for the brush. The hearth needs sweeping again. Ash has gathered where the log split uneven. You brush in small circles. Not because you must, because it's quieter than anything else in the room. The others are talking now. Not loudly, just enough to fill the space with warmth that isn't heat. Someone has left a spoon on the bench. You move it to the edge of the table, aligned with the others, even though no one asked. Your hands smell like salt and flour. You let them rest for a moment on the edge of the table, just to feel it. The girl at the far table starts slicing onions. You smell it before you see her. Sharp, earthy, honest. The kind of scent that wakes up your nose and settles behind your eyes. She blinks once, then again. You know how that will go. You cross the room and open the shutter half an inch. The air slips in. Not strong, just enough to stir the edges of paper and pull the sting away from your face. She nods when your eyes meet. That's all. The peelings pile beside her. You sweep a few into the pail without being asked. The knife she's using has a chipped edge. You remember because you used it last week. You think about grinding it again. Later, maybe. When your hands don't already feel full. The onions soften in the pan near the hearth. Their scent changes. Less bite. More sweetness. They're cooking now. Becoming something else. The cook adds a pinch of something from a jar. You don't see what, but it smells like sage. She stirs once and walks away, trusting the flame to keep its promise. The pan hisses, low and constant. You close the shutter again and return to your corner. You take the cloth from the hook beside the pantry and begin wiping down the table. Not from mess, not exactly, but from use. Crumbs, grease, bits of flour that never settled. Your hand moves in slow, practiced arcs. You know the shape of this wood better than you know the sky. The grain rises near the centre, where someone spilled broth last week and wiped it without drying. You press your palm there and smooth it flat, though it won't stay. That's not the point. Someone behind you drops a spoon. It bounces once and rolls beneath the bench. You bend and retrieve it, fingers brushing the stone floor, finding a bit of grit and a trace of something sticky. You don't ask what. You just rinse your hand at the basin and return. The cloth is damp now. You fold it over and keep wiping. The table will be used again in minutes, but for now it's clean, or clean enough. The fire snaps once, startling someone new. A voice mutters, half laughing, "It's only wood." You don't turn, you smile just enough for yourself. You place the cloth back on the hook when you're done. Damp, folded, ready. The clock ticks past midday, though no one watches it. You feel it instead, in your stomach, in the lean of your body, in the change in light. The sun no longer climbs. It just hovers now, deciding whether to stay. You move toward the back door to shake out the crumbs from your apron. You do it without thinking, letting them scatter onto the stone path where the hens will find them. The sound of wings flapping nearby tells you they already have. You stand at the threshold for a moment longer than needed. The field looks flatter in this light. The trees are still, their branches thin and waiting. A wagon creaks far off, too far to matter. You brush your hands together once and turn back inside. The warmth catches you again, the kind that sticks in your sleeves and climbs your spine. The kitchen smells stronger now. Onion, flour, ash, thyme, a thread of warmth that weaves through everything. You cross to the basin again and begin to wash the last bowl from breakfast, not because anyone asked, because it's there, because the water is warm, because your hands know how. The bowl dries slowly by the hearth, resting upside down on a folded cloth that's nearly lost its shape. You place another beside it, the one with the hairline crack that never spreads. You'll still use it tomorrow, so will someone else the day after. The quiet returns again, not full, but enough. Someone left the pantry door ajar. The light slips in at an angle, thin and dusty. You don't close it. The air needs somewhere to move. You sit on the bench with one leg tucked beneath the other. Not rest, not really. Just a pause. The spoon you placed earlier is still aligned. No one has moved it. That feels like something. The girl with the soft voice begins humming again. The same tune. You never asked what it was. You probably won't. It's better like this, unclaimed and floating like steam from the hearth. The dough is rising again, not for breakfast this time, for later. It swells beneath the cloth, quiet and round, as though it too is waiting to be asked for nothing. The broom leans near the door. You lift it gently, bristles worn down but still willing. The floor doesn't demand much, just attention. You start in one corner and draw the dust toward you in slow arcs. Each pass gathers something, flour, ash, a thread, a forgotten pin. You collect them in silence, coaxing this room into stillness with motion. The stone floor cools as the sun begins to lower. You feel it through your shoes, that long hush that settles into the late hours. Not yet evening, but close. Close enough that your hands begin to slow. A bird cries once outside, just once. No echo follows. You stop sweeping and glance toward the window. The panes are smudged with steam from earlier. You see the light shift behind it, a yellow softening, the kind that makes every shadow grow longer. You sweep the final pile into your palm and carry it to the hearth. The ashes accept it without fuss. The bristles of the broom tap once against the stone, then rest again by the door. You check the cloths one more time. Some are dry, stiff from starch. Others still hang, cool to the touch. You fold what you can and drape the rest neater. It feels like closing a book without reading the last page, but the story will continue tomorrow. Your fingertips run along the edge of the table as you pass, feeling where the wood dips and rises. That small notch near the centre, that's yours. You chipped it last spring with a ladle. No one noticed. But you did. You pour yourself a small cup of water from the jug. It tastes like the basin, like the walls, like the place itself. You drink slowly and wipe your mouth with your sleeve. A girl by the pantry dozes against the frame, head bent, arms crossed. You leave her there. The cook has gone quiet. The knives are hung, the fire, nearly out, makes no more promises. You move through the space as if it remembers you. And it does. The day has held you, and now it lets you go. The candle stub flickers once more. Someone lit it again, maybe for comfort, maybe from habit. Its light dances across the wall in soft waves. The flame doesn't stand still, but it doesn't waver either. It holds. You sit on the floor near the hearth, knees drawn to your chest. The day's work has passed through your limbs and settled now. Not pain, not even ache. Just memory. The shape of the pot, the weight of the ladle, the grain of the board beneath your palms. You breathe slowly. The fire has fallen into embers, a low red tucked beneath the black. It pulses faintly with each draught from the door. You don't feed it. Not tonight. It's done enough. Someone sighs from the shadows. Not loudly. A good sigh. You don't ask who. You close your eyes. The kitchen smells like all the days before this one. Onion and smoke, flour and cloth. Maybe time, maybe not. You've forgotten, and you're all right with that. You don't rise when the bench creaks. Someone else moves past you. The sound is distant. Not unwelcome. You're in the part of the day where things happen without needing your hands. You let them. Your skirt pools around you. You don't gather it in. It's warm enough here to let it be. The girl from the pantry passes you a cloth. Not to work, just something to hold. You take it and rest it in your lap. It smells faintly of lye and steam. The scent doesn't bother you. It grounds you. Your breathing slows further, not sleep, not yet, just something gentler. Something round. The sounds around you quiet one by one. A pot clinks once, a stool shifts, then only the hearth, again the occasional pop of something collapsing into ember. You open your eyes for a moment. The walls are golden with soot and shadow. You see your hands, they're still. You like them that way. Sleep comes this time without needing to be invited. You ease onto your side, arm beneath your head. The cloth stays with you, tucked between your hands. The stone beneath you isn't soft, but it's known. It holds. You listen one last time, not for noise, for absence. The space is whole now. Nothing to fix, nothing to fetch. Your breath steadies. You don't dream of fields or sunlight or softness. You don't need to. The warmth left in the hearth is enough. The hush between footsteps is enough. The weight of the day, properly folded, is enough. Your fingers relax, your eyes close. The last flicker from the candle dims and gives way to dark. There's nothing more to do, nothing to be carried. Only this, only sleep.